Hello, everypony, and welcome back to My Little Pony What Works. Season 5 is on its way, and after 4 seasons, a lot of my opinions have changed on episodes. A lot of episodes genuinely impressed me for the positive. But there are those few that were either head-scratching, face-palming, or in some cases, anger-inducing. These are the episodes that qualify for the worst of the worst. Now, some of these episodes you already know will be on here, but you may see some surprises along the way. Without further delay, here are my personal top 10 worst episodes of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. Updated. Number 10. Hey everyone! Guess which episode I'm talking about?
Oh, damn it! Oh my god, that hurts!
If you guessed the showstoppers, congratulations! You have better foresight than the Season 1 showrunners. I won't deny that the score for this episode is awesome, and I find myself humming the CMC theme every now and then. But the way the Cutie Mark Crusaders are written, they look like complete idiots. Not to mention, this episode introduced the waiting game to see how long it takes for the girls to realize their talents are right in front of them. Season 5, hopefully? Number 9. With Season 5 coming, we're bound to see returning writers, and hopefully they learned how to improve their writing skills. With Emmy Larson, pacing should definitely be taken into account. With Corey Powell, hopefully her story structure and dialogue improves. With Josh Haber, I like him to take on riskier stories, get out of his comfort zone. With Cindy Morrow, I really hope she stays away from stereotypical stories, and hopefully we don't have another One Bad Apple. I know Cindy Morrow is a great writer. In fact, 3 of her stories are in my top 25. But when her stories are bad, they stick out like a sore thumb. With One Bad Apple, the problems were a reprehensible moral, contrived plot elements, and a giant misrepresentation of childhood bullying. This was the first episode I ever failed in a review, which you can find on Dailymotion, and I just hope Cindy stays away from these stories. Number 8. What would I consider to be the perfect bad episode? Well, it's an episode that does almost everything wrong, but it's not enough to get me anger-induced. That would have to go to Ghostbusters. Oh, this magnificent train wreck. Not only did it introduce the most annoying characters of the entire show, but it also showed you can make the characters you're supposed to be rooting for more despicable than the actual antagonist, who, by the way, at this point in the show was nothing more than a one-note show-off who doesn't get any character development outside changing speech patterns. Again, why is she so light? Gilda had more development with just a mention of her past. Point being, Ghostbusters sucks, and I ain't even mad. Number 7. Now, with the perfect bad episode, I kinda got angry, but it wasn't enough to pour all of my rage into. These next 7 deserve all the hate they get, starting with the second worst episode of Season 1, Owl's Well That Ends Well. While this episode does introduce the sibling dynamic of Twilight and Spike, it comes at the expense of a contradicting narrative with contradicting character motivations. Now, I don't want to repeat Mysterious Mr. Renner because his thoughts on this episode pretty much mirror mine, so I say check out his review as well to see why this episode left a bad precedent for Spike episodes until Season 4. Number 6. Daring Do and Power Ponies are kinda stupid episodes. I mean, seriously, Daring Do is a real pony and her works are actually non-fiction? The main 6 get totally nerfed in a comic so Spike learns a lesson about inadequacy? Do I care in the slightest? Hell no! Sure, Daring Do being real is a bit out there, but the narrative plays it straight and actually turned out a well-written adventure story. The plot of Power Ponies is incredibly campy and has plenty of holes in it, but a lot of research was put into the episode's atmosphere that I didn't care much about Spike doubting himself on his way to rescue the main 6. What I'm trying to get at here is, I'd rather have a dumb premise actually succeed or do fairly decent, than have a great premise fail miserably. Case in point, Some Pony to Watch Over Me. What a waste of potential. This was a chance for Apple Bloom to prove herself she's responsible to her bigger sister, and it devolves into another Applejack X Stupid episode. Oh yeah, and it has the worst moral of the entire show. That's also a reason to hate it. Number 5. Hello, Dragon Quest, my old enemy. Funny seeing you here back in the bottom 5. To think, I said all I could about Dragon Quest during my crossover with Buck Brony. So if you want to see me tear this episode a new one, just click the review playlist at the end of the video. Number 4. With All's Well That Ends Well, we learn Twilight truly values the relationship she and Spike have. In Dragon Quest, despite an overly contrived setup, we know Spike belongs with the ponies who care for him. In the Crystal Empire, Twilight assures Spike's biggest fear of being sent away will never happen. Yeah, let's throw all that continuity out the window so Spike at your service can exist. This episode is truly something. While it does have a few good laughs here and there, and some really good CGI, it's ultimately an uninteresting and idiotic story that completely ruins Spike's character even worse than All's Well That Ends Well. Number 3. Some of you may be disappointed that Putting Your Hoof Down is not on this list, and I completely understand why. But you want to know why I don't think Fluttershy's actions were as bad as everyone makes them out to be? Because I feel Fluttershy berating Rarity and Pinkie Pie was unconscious. Don't get me wrong, it's awful to see Fluttershy say that their point in living is meaningless and no one would give a flying feather about them. But I feel her actions were reckless. When she looked down in the puddle to see the monster she became, it was realization that she went too far. If they didn't screw up the moral in the end, I would have been fine with the actions presented, as I mentioned in my last video. Let me put it this way. If Fluttershy felt no remorse for her actions, and she didn't learn anything from it, then I would have taken more of an issue with putting her hoof down. Does my wording sound familiar? It should, because that's exactly what the mysterious Ne'er-do-well did! What the rest of the main 6 did to Rainbow Dash in this episode was not only hypocritical, but also malicious. They intended to make Rainbow Dash feel bad. They intended to hammer the plot into Rainbow Dash so she would get annoyed. Trust me, she wasn't the only one. And after that, we saw Rainbow Dash at the lowest of lows, trying desperately to receive recognition. This isn't entertaining, this is torturous. This coming from a guy who enjoys schadenfreude. To this day, I proclaim that Ne'er-do-well is the most painful episode to sit through. I still can't get through watching it a second time. This episode deserves all of the hate it gets. Number 2.
Maybe next time you will take a second look and not judge the cover of the book.
Bet you didn't see that coming. I already said my piece on Bridal Gossip. I went into large detail about why I thought this episode can go to hell, and why it set the example for all other bad episodes like Somebody to Watch Over Me and Spike at Your Service to follow. And I made it known the show wants to constantly remind me it exists, whether subtly or blatantly. And yet, surprisingly enough, it's no longer my least favorite episode. It's funny, you look at it again, and you see something different that will change your mind in an episode. Or another episode comes along and does something even more insulting. Yes, there is indeed an episode I find worse than the episode I have a personal vendetta against. But before we get to number 1, here are the dishonorable mentions. Number 1. You know, looking back at this list, I could say I could see some positivity from all these episodes already presented. Despite All's Well That Ends Well being a stereotypical jealousy story and giving Spike episodes from here on out a bad name, I could say I have a newfound respect for Twilight and Spike's relationship. Even though the Cutie Mark Crusaders were demonstrable idiots in the Showstoppers, I could say I'm anxiously awaiting the day they receive their cutie marks. Despite Spike at Your Service, Some Putting to Watch Over Me, and Bridal Gossip getting on my bad side, I could say they all made me laugh at one point or another. The point I'm getting at is, even though I disliked episodes on this list more so than others, I could at least say I had some positive experience watching these episodes. I received no positive experience out of watching Rainbow Falls. This episode is a mess. Yes, it is true I have more of a personal vendetta against the previous number. But this episode goes beyond the call of duty to insult my intelligence. And I know what you're thinking, intended age demographic. Well, let's talk about that. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is an all-ages cartoon, meaning anyone of any age can watch and enjoy it. With such repetitive dialogue, dumb story choices, and one of the weakest written morals of the show, it makes me feel like I'm watching an episode of Blue's Clues rather than a show the likes of The Fairly OddParents or DuckTales. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic has proven time and time again that it doesn't have to talk down to its audience in order to produce entertaining and mature episodes like Sisterhood Social or Pinky Apple Pie. But when an episode is so dumbed down like Rainbow Falls was, I hang my head in shame. Rainbow Falls, in my humble opinion, the absolute worst episode of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.